All right. Well, welcome to episode 144 of the Aviation Business Podcast. And it's the 21st century. Everything is digital. Everything is online. Everyone is in the cloud these days. We have so many digital assets that we maybe haven't even thought of. These assets, like all business assets, are valuable. Some of it's very personal. And the bottom line is that cyber attacks hit businesses every day. According to the Cisco annual cybersecurity report, the total volume of events has increased almost fourfold between January of 16 and October of 17. Former Cisco CEO John Chambers once said, "There are two types of companies: those who have been hacked and those who don't yet know they've been hacked." So in today's episode, we're going to talk about cyber liability insurance and answer a few questions some of you might have about cyber liability, and then maybe some tips to start protecting our digital assets. And by no means am I a digital expert, and there are people in this industry that specialize just in this coverage, but cyber liability is something that I purchased for my business, and it is something that anyone who does business really needs to have. So the questions we're going to discuss are: what is cyber liability insurance? What are the risks involved? Why businesses need cyber liability insurance? What is covered and how much might it cost? Well, and obviously that depends. So before we answer these questions about cyber liability insurance, it's important to first briefly discuss what digital assets are, why they're important. According to the website, thebalancesmb.com, digital assets are assets that exist online. Some of your digital assets might exist on your own servers, or they may be in the cloud. Digital assets include, and here's the biggest one, customer information. And that's probably the biggest asset and exposure you may have. Also, business photos, your websites, your business processes and documentation, apps that you've developed, contact or customer list, again, huge, subscription information, intellectual property, products in an online store, perhaps even customers' credit card information. So like all valuable things owned by your business, digital assets are a great benefit to your business, but some of the benefits of these digital assets are claiming expenses. You can sell some of these assets. Assets are valuable to investors, to your customers. But ultimately, with any digital asset, like your customers, your newsletter subscribers, whatever they may be, one of the keys is having goodwill and trust that their information is going to be taken care of. So digital assets are a great benefit to your company, but that protection, trust, and goodwill is key, and breaking it can be a major problem. So when you run a business or your team, you may face many physical risks like property damage or injuries, but your business also faces a lot of these risks that come from technology, such as data breaches from cyber attacks. Common types of cyber attacks include malware, phishing, man-in-the-middle attack, denial of service attack, an SQL injection, to name a few. Not to leave out, wire fraud transfer, or wire transfer fraud, should I say? But cyber criminals can target personally identifiable information or personal health information to keep you or on your business, that you keep on your business's computer. And so dates of birth would be a big one. I know in the aviation industry, driver's license numbers, pilots' license numbers, anything like that where, personally identifiable information leaves you pretty vulnerable to some major liabilities. And cyber criminals can use that information in a lot of dangerous ways. So anyway, to protect against these risks, many businesses are now carrying cyber liability insurance to protect these various exposures and assets. Cyber insurance can offer broad coverages to help businesses protect these various technology-related exposures. They help cover financial losses due to cyber attacks or other tech-related risks, as well as privacy investigations or lawsuits following an attack. So that's why it's important to protect your business with a cyber liability insurance policy, helping you respond quickly in the event of a cyber attack. It can help cover things like legal services to help you meet state and federal regulations, notification expenses to alert affected customers that their personal information was compromised. And guys, just those alone, the statistics on the cost of that alone can be staggering. much beyond what your business is going to want to afford without it. Extortion paid to recover locked files in a ransomware attack, lost income from a network outage, lawsuits related to customer or employee privacy breach or lack of security, regulatory fines from state and federal agencies, right? So there is a lot of important coverages, and there's others you can purchase. Some carriers will offer a wire transfer fraud coverage in addition to that. So each of these policies have some commonalities. Some of them are different, so it's important to know what you're getting. But these risks are key. Just in the event of a data breach and your customer's information is compromised, that notification, those legal services you're going to need in order to handle that claim, to respond to your customers, to notify them, gets to be pretty significant. So when looking for a cyber liability insurance policy, obviously get with your trusted advisor, your insurance broker, your team, and they will have applications that will look at various information, such as your number of your customers, how much revenue you do, how much sensitive information you store, the security measures you may have in place from a technology standpoint, and any claims history. And depending on that, premiums are going to, have a wide range. But in general, I found it to be pretty reasonable for the exposure at this point in time. So how much does it cost? It depends, but it's usually something that is affordable enough to buy, and definitely it's something that any business who has any sort of electronic or online presence really needs to carry. So after all that being said and done, let's just keep in mind that prevention is better than cure, right? So risk management efforts up front is better than having to pay a claim. So let's talk about some tips to protect your digital assets. First is to locate and list. Make a comprehensive list of all your digital assets. Use the list as a starting point, but be creative. Think of anything you have online or your business's servers that could be valuable. You're looking for things that are proprietary, that your business owns, things that no one else has and may want to buy or take. Consider these digital assets as possible items for sale. What would you consider the value you are buying for that asset? Second, establish ownership and value. Look at the digital assets you have listed. Who owns them? Before you can protect these assets, specific ownership must be established. For example, can you prove who your company owns your employees' emails or email lists? Check with an attorney to write up policies establishing ownership of your digital assets. Register your ownership. These digital assets can be registered to tell the world of your ownership. Business photos, processes, the content of websites, blogs can be copyrighted. Digital assets like logos and designs can be trademarked. Again, seek professional help in this. Most of us don't have the need for someone to do that full-time on our staff. Lastly, backup. It's important to find a backup system to protect all of your digital assets. Having a backup of a backup is a very reasonable and prudent thing to do. You might also want a backup hard drive on top of that. But either way, there's a lot of other policies that you can implement. We have a technology handbook that has certain requirements for the technology that our team members use. Things including two-factor authentication, frequent password changes, not downloading certain things. Obviously, having firewalls and antivirus type software are absolutely foundational for protecting your digital assets, both those for your internal business and that of your customers. But either way, cyber risk is growing. There are countless statistics. There are countless stories of attacks. Many of you have been a part of them. You've received letters or emails that your information has been compromised, and I assure you that was very expensive for you to be notified and for these businesses to address the breaches that they've had. So it is a very large risk, and one that most businesses aren't going to be able to shoulder on their own without devastating effects. So having a cyber liability policy can help mitigate many of these potential losses. And again, partner with an agent who can help you to find the policy that meets your needs and exposures. But again, if you do any business in the cloud, online, digitally, you store any customer information, you have a cyber liability exposure, and it's an exposure you probably need to address with an insurance product designed for that. So take your business to a higher altitude by guarding and protecting your digital information, your digital assets, and by getting a cyber liability policy to help address those potential exposures of loss to keep your business moving forward successfully. Well, here's our aviation fun fact for the day. Goes back to March 9th of 2011. The Space Shuttle Discovery, which was the first of the space shuttles to be retired, glided to a landing to end its 39th and final mission, the most by any space shuttle. The Discovery is one of the orbiters from NASA's Space Shuttle program and the third of the 5 fully operational orbiters to be built. Its first mission flew August 30th to September 5th of 1984, and over 27 years of service, it launched and landed 39 times, aggregating more space flights than any other spacecraft to date. Discovery was the third orbiter to enter service, preceded by Columbia and Challenger. It embarked on its final mission on February 24th of 2011 and touched down for the last time at Kennedy Space Center on March 9th, having spent a cumulative total of nearly a full year in space. Discovery performed both research and International Space Station assembly missions and also carried the Hubble Space Telescope into orbit. Well, that's your aviation fun fact for the day. Until next time, keep your wheels up and your attitude high.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Business Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share with someone who could benefit from its content. You can stay up to date by subscribing in iTunes or your podcast player of choice. This episode is brought to you by Aris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence in aviation insurance. To find out more, go to arisinsurance.com. That's AERIS insurance.com.